Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's see if I can. Let's see, my Rumble didn't go through. Okay. Mm. It's 1 o'clock in the morning on August 30th, 2025. We have no time to sleep because everything's breaking. Richard now is a national hero. He's a national hero, and that's huge news. He paid the ultimate price. He was forcibly removed from his barracks room, and his life was taken right there on Fort Bliss. This is, let's check the days, 1,800. And, I don't think I listed it on today. It's so late. 1,854. 1,854 days. So, of course, the Walmart mass shooting is crumbling, right? It's just crumbling, the whole narrative. And so I would say the billionaires, it's the billionaires um, that are really losing their grip. And, that's saying a lot for billionaires, right? When you lose your grip, because they have so many resources to uh, buy people out, compromise people, threaten people, especially when you own media. When you own media, you can do so much damage with all the false narratives, and they're up to their old games. You see that, but at the same time, people aren't buying it anymore. They've just abused and extorted so much, and there's so many victims. And when you're a victim, it's like a wake-up call, right? um as a Christian, uh the question always comes up in Bible studies and everything, is why does God allow these terrible things to happen? And of course, Job, uh, in the Bible, that whole Bible study with Job teaches you that, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. Matter of fact, he had just unbreakable faith. But all these terrible things happened to him. And one thing you learn through all of that is God is teaching you something, right? God's teaching you something. Of course, God doesn't do it to you. It's uh, uh, the darker powers, right? And God allowed it to happen. God allowed it. And you think, how can a good God allow bad things to happen? Well, because He's got the He's He's got the whole thing in His hands. You might think it's bad for now, but you know, our life right now, do we expect to go to heaven on flowery beds of ease while others fought and bled on bloody seas? I mean, these are lessons that we learn through the sharpening of ourselves, uh, the growth, maturing of ourselves. How do we get through these tough times? Do we react like this mass shooter just reacted, like this, um, uh, and I want to say, my heart just breaks for these children that lost their lives. And the shooter, people are wondering, how did it happen? How did it happen? Well, uh, I'll leave that for everyone to debate because it's all coming out. And was he then used, right? Um, you know, okay, it all happened. He was absolutely groomed for it, right? Groomed for it in so many different ways. And then how was he used, right? How was he used? Because he was absolutely used. There's no doubt about that. This whole case is being used. This whole mass shooting is being used um, to fabricate false stories. Absolutely. So as time goes by, and I'm not going to um, discuss all of them, there's so many false stories going on. And it all needs to be worked out because the truth always rises to the top. But I can tell you this, that it is tied to El Paso now. It's tied to El Paso because they've brought in a Brandon Herrera, right? They've brought in attacks on Brandon Herrera. And so that ties the Minneapolis shooting to El Paso and Fort Bliss. And why would they do that? Why would they do that? There's so much scrutiny on El Paso, the front door into the United States. There's so much scrutiny, right? That's going on right now. You know, the turning off of all the money spigots of USAID, the designating the cartels as FTOs. That is disastrous for businesses there that were in business with these cartels. Designating those the biggest ones as FTOs, and those that are involved in this funeral business, you know, the funeral business extortion and the fraud against um, really the sacrilege against Corpus Christi, right? That's what I call it, the sacrilege against Corpus Christi, this whole funeral fraud, the mortuary operations fraud, the rotting bodies in this narco plenitude crematorium owned by an individual's whose house is right beside Beto O'Rourke, who absolutely exploited the whole Walmart mass shooting, just like the this Tony Gonzalez's team is doing right now, exploiting the Minneapolis uh, mass shooting, right? So, and it's always leading back to El Paso. El Paso is the epicenter for this battle for the United States. It really is. Um, and it's hard for everyone to believe that, to understand that we have evidence upon evidence upon evidence, 5 years of being put through this fire, being put through this this ordeal, this hell, right? But it gives you um, in this toroid, right, of just oh gosh, activity. You know, it gives you insight. It gives you insight to how this criminal network has worked, how these cartels have worked, how they have profited, how they have used Fort Bliss, used our military infrastructure that's taxpayer funded for their business, right? For their business. Used our equipment, used our weapons, used our ammunition, used our soldiers, used our installation, used our barracks, used taxpayer funded resources, used the fuel, used the transportation, um, use the facilities, meaning the airport, um, the runway, right? The roads, everything, using that to conduct their criminal trafficking, um, enterprises. They're, and making billions because, you know, where's their overhead? Their overhead is being paid by the taxpayers, right? And then you have the funeral business extorting um, the graces of the Americans that through USA, through charitable groups and everything to help people with the costs of funeral expenses and then with the migrant crisis and with the COVID crisis, you know, paying, helping people pay. And so it would be taxpayers' money that would do this through NGOs and USAID um, and, absolutely exploiting all of that, giving people urns full of mortar ash or uh, dead animal ash or whatever, um, just to exploit it even more, to squeeze as many funds out of that as they possibly could for themselves, so that they could pay for very lavish homes, many homes, lavish businesses, lavish cars. This real estate honey trap of DPS. Jose Sanchez, the regional director for the Western District of the Department of Public Safety. Um, you don't get a Lamborghini and this big $200,000 Audi and whatever for selling $100,000 homes, even though $100,000 homes are nice. But, these are very, very expensive cars. There's something else going on there, right? There's a honey trap going on there. At least a suspicion of a honey trap, especially when you get caught doing frisky business in a parking lot on the taxpayer dime. So we get a look inside the system that will arrest someone and prosecute someone for possession of child pornography. But when you're Lilani Hart and you're getting your mail at Dreams Cabaret, and your husband is VA IDS Pablo, meaning his hands are holding the purse strings of disability benefits and death benefits in the VA, which is a huge purse, okay? It's a huge purse. Um, that when you confess in an affidavit to possession of child pornography, you don't get arrested. Why not? Why didn't she get arrested? Why is that being overlooked? Right? Why are there laws for some and laws for others? And of course, there's confession of worse crimes than that in her affidavit. Um, and why is the FBI, the CID, calling James Hart to, because of course some of these confessions involved his uh, major crimes, calling him and giving him updates, right? Uh, I don't think we got an update. We haven't gotten an update. Richard didn't. Well, let's see. I don't know about that, but he got targeted. That's what he got. He got targeted by those that are supposed to be watching over him, right? That are supposed to be protecting him. And that leads to you know, the main subject for today is back to Trooper Patrick Brookshier. Patrick Brookshier, being a trooper with the DPS, um, knowing that we have active, open investigations going on within the DPS because of Gustavo Sanchez, the Texas Ranger that was assigned to our case, that is related to Manny Chavira, that is related to Nadal Baim, major suspects in targeting our son and participating in the cover up, um, and on, and having these major connections within the command of Fort Bliss, in the command of 32nd ATCOM, which is Richard's command. Um, and uh, blocking major evidence that needs to be investigated, knowing that Richard is a whistleblower, knowing that he's a national hero, um, that we have not received our son's remains, and yet the evidence is so overwhelming that the board of inquiry for the Department of Defense, not once but twice, declared Richard killed and then killed in the line of duty. And clearly the paperwork is evidence that confirms it was on Fort Bliss. You would think that a trooper like Patrick Brookshier, that troopers are in the line of danger, day in and day out, um, that he would absolutely um, consider all of that about Richard. That Richard needs the highest respect from a trooper, that the Gold Star family needs respect, and the truth, and yet he assumes a false identity as Bro Pecans and proceeds to bully, harass, which is so illegal. It's so illegal. And you know what? He's a veteran. He's a veteran. And so he also knows about stolen valor. He also knows about esprit de corps. He should know. He doesn't seem to know, but he should know about that. And he should know about no soldier left behind. He should know about national security. He should know about um, not losing the trust of the people, right? Protecting the trust and the integrity of the institution, of the Department of Public Safety, of the United States Army, and yet, and even of the family. He's a family man. He absolutely, when you have a Gold Star family that fights day in and day out for the truth about their son, so much so, because all of the evidence that we have provided, that was from our investigations, from our hard investigations, day in and day out, and from all of our inquiries, our FOIAs, our rallying, months of rallying, all of our meetings, all of our phone calls, all of our sleepless nights, everything. Um, that was provided to the Board of Inquiry by us, by our team, and not by the CID, not by the FBI, that we know of, even though the FBI were looking for Richard, for his remains in Juarez. That has been confirmed by many people in very important institutions like the DHS, like the Department of State, like um, the liaison, like the DES, Thomas Kane, like, uh, it is our hard work in collecting all of that information, um, figuring out who Nadal Baim is, the Palestinian arms dealer that is connected to the Mexican cartel, and family to Manny Chavira, who is the El Paso ISD chief of police, and of course, family to uh, Gustavo Sanchez, the Texas Ranger. And you would think that a trooper would look at and though that's just a tip of the iceberg of what we've uncovered, that he would look at that and would give us respect for that. But that's not what he did. He risked. He gets like $98,000 a year for being a trooper, and he risked everything, um, to assume a fake identity, thinking maybe that we would never look, that we would never pay attention, that and thinking, just think about this. Here we've been doing this day in and day out, withstanding the most relentless threats, prosecution, retaliation, um, bullying, intimidation, lie after lie from, the highest levels. Um, from generals teams, even from generals teams, from our own CAO, from our own CAO, from Richard's own command. We have withstood the most intense retaliation, uh, day in and day out, and vulgar and vile, and not from one at a time, but coming from all angles, from so many, from even the funeral business, right? I mean, that's a common denominator, from the Mormon common denominator of all of this, from the cartel denominator of all of this, from the political group of all of this. It's just unbelievable. The media group that we have withstood. And this trooper assumes, Trooper Patrick Brookshier, gets this in his head that he can assume a Pecans false identity and, throw some uh, vile words and a paragraph or whatever at us, and that we would be so intimidated by him that we would leave it all alone, leave it all. I'm sorry. We're not intimidated by him. He thought that we wouldn't even look at who he was with that vile and vulgar and lies and y- you know the attack, that we wouldn't look who he was. I mean, w- what's his IQ? What is his, that's scary, that not scary, it doesn't scare us, but it's what's the right word, that he would be in charge of, of protecting, of the Department of Public Safety, that he would be in charge of that, and he would have that kind of low IQ. Um, and I don't know if he has a low IQ. It just seems to me it's suspicious. I suspect him of having a low IQ, to think that, to risk his job of $98,000 a year of taxpayer funds for being a trooper, okay? Uh, okay, whatever. But to bully a Gold Star family, the family of a national hero, of the, someone told me today, wow, that is some soldier you have there. And I'm like, I know. I can't, I know. I'm so honored to be Richard Halliday's mother. I'm so honored. It's such a blessing. Um, and his name will go down in history as this amazing soldier that he is, um, and a national hero. So, thank you, Anicia, for coming on with your prayers and love, and Danielle, thank you for coming on so late, so early in the morning. But this trooper, with no respect of what we've accomplished, what we have provided to law enforcement, what we have provided to the command, what we have provided to the public, everything that we've uncovered. And, we didn't set out to uncover that every judge in the El Paso criminal law magistrate court was a fraud. We, we didn't know that. And we didn't set out to tell that to the public. It's just that Penny Hamilton was part of this case. The criminal law magistrate was part of this case. And when you look into it, all of a sudden, and you have to go to the Texas Constitution, and you go to the Texas Constitution and you realize, hey, wait a minute, these judges are supposed to be elected. They're not elected. Why the heck are they not elected? Since 2015, they were supposed to be elected. No wonder they are in the hands of the cartel tied criminal organization and network here. They are, they're rogue. They're rogue judges. Now, we didn't set out to discover that. We didn't set out to reveal that, expose that. That is just something that came out. And, it took a while to even wrap our heads around. But you would think that trooper Brookshier would respect that. He's supposed to be for law and order. You would think that he would respect the fact that we have discovered who the Mayellas are. We didn't set out to crumble, just shatter the whole Walmart mass shooting false narrative and shatter the cases as well. But, that's what's happened. Patrick Crucius, there's just no way that the timeline and that the narrative fits reality. And this is, the problem. What's going on today is people want us to just accept deception. That they can deceive us. We can go, oh, that's a little strange. That's not right. That's not what reality is telling us. And it's like, oh, just be quiet. You have to just accept this deception. This fake identification. And no. And then if you don't accept it, they get angry. And that's what Patrick Brookshier did. He got angry. And it's like, okay, why is he angry that we're not accepting the deceptions about our son that we've revealed, about the Walmart mass shooting, about what's going on in El Paso? We have not accepted these deceptions. We don't want to be deceived. The deceiver is the devil. That goes totally against what we believe in. We believe in the truth. We are followers of Jesus Christ, of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. That is the truth, the light, the way. We're not, going to go along with a life of deception. And so why is he? Why does he get angry that we don't want to just accept the false reality, the false stories, the false narratives? And why doesn't he respect the truth? And so then he has to attack us and attack us with with deception to deceive people that are coming to our Facebook page, our other pages, and seeking an alternative to the uh, false stories that are out there. And I want to thank everyone for keep on sending me stuff. Keep on, we're going through them. The volume of what we're getting right now is huge. We're not ignoring anybody. Um, it's just huge. I just can't even explain it to you. And of course, our priority list is anything that gets us closer to getting our son's remains back. Okay. Getting our son's remains back, that's number one. Getting accountability, that's number two. And then all of this other, we are going through to, you know, if we can see any overlaps to shed light on what's going on. For example, we got a article about from Rose Thayer of Stars and Stripes. Anytime I see Rose Thayer, I just want to gag, right? Because I know she's a deceiver. She's a deceiver and an evil deceiver, a really evil deceiver. Because she has known for a long time, years and years and years, that our sons and daughters, our volunteer sons and daughters in the military, in the barracks, are targets every day, that they are not safe in their barracks room. And here she comes out with an article about that, and we're not supposed to hold her accountable for her um, obvious delay and so many women then and so many all of our sons and daughters suffering so much at the hands of those that we entrust them to in their barracks, where they have no other place where they can live. They have no options. They can't live anywhere else. And so they are suffering from being targeted in their barracks, in their barracks room, where they're supposed to sleep, the most vulnerable actions that you do in a day: sleeping, bathing, those very personal things. And they are not safe. They are targeted and they're filmed and they're filmed. And it is so bad. And Rose Thayer could, if she really cared, she could use her platform to make a real difference. And she doesn't, because she doesn't really care. She has loyalties elsewhere, and they're not good loyalties. And I know this from first hand experience with her as a total witness of her evil, a victim of her evil. So, so that's one story, and I've wanted to post it, but we have so much coming in because we're also paying attention to what's happening in Mexico, because what's happening in Mexico is very important to finding our son's remains. And you would think that Trooper Brookshier would want to be of help, but he has conflicts of interest. His wife's family owns Dreams Cabaret. Okay. His wife's family owns Dream Cabaret. Dreams Cabaret is another epicenter in this whole cartel network. Leilani Hart was receiving her mail there. Okay. And of course, Boleyn Rocha's stripper, Kyle Eswick stripper. Um, this Dreams Cabaret being right beside an empty lot. And we know through Congress and through um, Tom Homan, the border czar, saying that children were being trafficked and being dropped off at strip clubs at empty lots. Okay? A lot of children trafficked, and they were being dropped off at strip clubs and empty lots. Well, let me tell you, Dreams Cabaret fits that profile very well. And Leilani Hart was getting her mail there. So that's not me just getting that out of the air. That is absolute evidence that has been confirmed. And of course, with her kind of affidavit, with her kind of confessions about committing the worst, facilitating the worst type of crimes against children, and being in possession of videos of the worst type of crimes being committed um, against children is really shocking that she's not arrested yet. Okay, that she's not. She's being protected, and Brookshier's wife is connected to the ownership of that business, which is like, how in the world can he be a trooper? Because it also gets worse. It gets worse because Patrick Brookshier, who risked everything, right? Not to help us, not to help Richard, not to shed light for the community, not to help the community, not to help public safety. That's not what he risked everything for. He risked everything for the criminal network, which includes Delia Briones. Now, when you think of a criminal network, you don't always think of the county clerk, the El Paso County clerk. You don't think of that as being, a very important role in the criminal trafficking or criminal network. You just, you're like, okay, that's a clerk job, right? A clerk job. No, um, that role, and you have to look it up, it will just knock your socks off. It is so important to the corruption. The corruption and the cartel networking and the fraud, just like this decades long fraudster that just was arrested and prosecuted by Montoya for the exact same crimes Montoya has also committed, and that evidence has confirmed through the exact same office of El Paso County Clerk, under Delia Briones. And, Brookshires family, his wife, is connected to the Briones family, which is the Poison Ponds family, which Julio Cordero, the FBI agent, after he retired, that you never retire as an FBI agent. You really never get that out of your system. Was still trying to uncover things, and we have that now, through law enforcement and everything. Yeah, that's been confirmed, um, and the appointment of Manny Chavira and all of that, because Julio Cordero absolutely was um, lost his life by the hands of an officer in the El Paso ISD. Um, eh, but he is the one. He's the one from Poison Ponds 1.0. He's the hero. He's the hero that uh, Briones, the judge, was put in jail for the fraud. And that fraud, then I guess Delia didn't learn from it, from her own family. That fraud has continued. And this latest individual that defrauded 70 people, right? With all this real estate fraud and everything. You have to read that story. I just posted it up. Uh, that could not have taken place with um, a county clerk that was doing their job properly. Um, this again is evidence that confirms that Delia Briones, with her 2028 stamp for Montoya, with all the other fraud that we have uncovered in that office, um, has, it's even bigger. It's even bigger. We've only seen the surface, right? The fraud in that office is huge, and she needs to be held accountable. She's a huge, huge player in this criminal network, and for her to be connected to the trooper Patrick Brookshier, then you know why he would risk everything to try to harass us, intimidate us, put out a false narrative. Then you understand why. And it's important for us to, make sure that that's reported and make sure that the public knows about it, because um, when you see these false stories that are going on, uh, s- most of the time it's because of someone that is part of the criminal network. And this is, what he has done shows that he needs to be investigated for being part of the criminal network in El Paso and on Fort Bliss that allowed these things to happen to our soldiers, allowed this environment, this criminal cartel tied environment, even to produce the El Paso cartel, right? The Fort Bliss cartel, you know. Um, allowed it to fester like this and to grow like this and to infiltrate, even being a trooper, even being in the DPS, even being a target for a honey trap like Jose Sanchez. Clearly, um, when someone comes after you and they're offering you some honey, and they're in real estate, and they have a Lamborghini and they have a Tesla and they have an Audi, and these are not like just low level, that these are the highest price ones, like 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 vehicles, and you find out that they just sell houses that are about 100,000, which I don't want to demean $100,000 house, but you know she's not making money to that produces that kind of lifestyle. Okay, you would think that if you're the director, or the district director, uh you would have a little bit of a red flag before you tasted that honey, right? You'd have a little bit of a red flag and protect, um, you're the Department of Public Safety, protect your role, because you're supposed to be protecting public safety, right? So this is what's going on. And I can't make this stuff up. It is just there. We have rogue judges, rogue DAs, we have infiltrated and very weak. I mean, it shows you that director Jose Sanchez is a very weak individual. If he is going to get honey trapped by something so obvious, I mean, it doesn't take very long, especially if you're the director of the Western District of DPS, to get a little bit of a background check when someone's offering you some honey, especially when you have the position that you do. You should really check it. So he didn't, and then he did something very, very odd, very odd. In the middle of a parking lot, he engaged in frisky business while on duty, while wearing his badge, while in the vehicle that taxpayer money pays him. You know, this is not good for the integrity of the Department of Public Safety. This is not good for uh, their name, right? Their reputation has been hurt badly by all of this. And then to add to that, you have someone like Trooper um, Brookshier attacking a Gold Star family of a national hero. You know, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. After 5 long years, oh, you know, I'm going to try to intimidate them. Look, I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, and it needs to be out there for the public. So I want to end with this whole thing um, with Brandon Herrera um, and the attacks that he's undergoing. So I know a lot needs to come out, but what we have seen with Tony Gonzalez's team and using that Minneapolis shooting to make it about politics, about a political hit. The pattern just jumped out at us like crazy, replicating what they did to President Trump with the Walmart mass shooting. And so I don't claim to know Brandon Herrera really, really well. I do know that he has millions of followers. I follow him. I know that he is a big Second Amendment, uh, which is very important to our family um, because we have to guard ourselves against rogue judges and rogue troopers and rogue officers and things like this. Um, so I know this about him that he was very shocked when this came out. Um, and he's already provided the evidence that debunks all of the allegations. So that's important. I do know this that those attacking him, which is Tony Gonzalez's team, I can tell you this Tony Gonzalez's record is so bad, y'all. It's so bad. He, you know, he sold out. He needs to be called Tony Sellout Gonzalez. Okay, he sold out. He said that the Woody Hunt um, uh, group needed to be investigated. And then all of a sudden, you know, he gets invited over and then it's silence. So he apparently, you know, to me, it's suspicious. It just smells of selling out, right? It smells of selling out. Because he voted against the Second Amendment. I can tell you that much. And I can tell you that, um, you know, we haven't heard from him. And he says he's for veterans. Well, he should have inquired with us, right? He should have inquired with us. And even with the Mayellas, when the Mayellas came out, he should have inquired. He has about 800 miles of border in his district. He should have inquired. So he's a sellout in our book. He voted against the Second Amendment. He has absolutely, he should have contacted us about the criminal law magistrate court judges, the rogue judges, the DA's office, the Mayellas, the Walmart mass shooting. the Plenitude Crematorium, about our son's remains. He should have written us when we received the in the line of duty, um, as he should, as he should, right? Um, and so I'm saying his record is so abysmal that he's putting up a smokescreen of attack against his opponent. And of course, his opponent is Brandon Herrera. And so I hope that right now, Brandon is looking really, really good. Okay, Mr. Herrera is looking really, really good. He's Second Amendment, um, and uh, he responded very quickly to this with hard evidence, and so I think Tony is looking really bad. His team's looking really bad. Brandon is looking really good. So I just want to end with that. Thank you so much. And we just love you for coming on so late. And there's just no time to sleep. And there's so much going on. And we're very, very glad there's a lot going on, because we've worked very, very hard not to have our son's case in cold case. It's sure not cold. It's very, very hot. And we're getting very, very close to getting his remains. And just to let you know, um, because of our work in Mexico, um, and of course, the major work is being done by President Trump. Uh, Today, and I'll probably talk about or put up a post about it tomorrow, hopefully, hopefully, the Mexican Senate broke out in a fight. The Mexican Senate broke out in a fight, y'all. The rule of law is breaking down there. And the reason why is because, of course, you know that Mexico is a narco state. It has been a narco state for a long time. The cartels are always, they're in control. They're in control of Mexico, and they rival against one another. And what happened with El Mayo is so big because El Mayo named the politicians that he was paying. Okay. El Mayo named the politicians in Mexico that he was paying. And it is because of everything happening in El Paso and with El Mayo and with El Chapo, and of course with uh, Richard's case, that this Plenitude crematorium, there's many of these graves, and it's so sad to say that, but there's many of these narco graves, but it's this one that is being pinpointed, this one that is being highlighted in the news. This one is of interest to the United States, and that's why we know um, that all of those remains need to be identified. They need to be identified. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes with this narco rotting body, unlicensed. Okay, it's unlicensed, and it was absolutely being um, state sanctioned by the pan party of Governor Mario Campos and her mother Maria Eugenia Galvan. Um, and it's absolutely being protected by people like Beto O'Rourke and Veronica Escobar, because it's tied to the El Paso medical examiner, um, Mario Raskin Ortiz, who is also rogue, who's also unqualified, who's also illegal, um, and of course to purchase funeral homes, and also to Fort Bliss mortuary operations, which is then connected to the Tavitas and to Lilani Hart, Dallas Hart, James Hart. And it is very interesting to know that Kyle Eswick got his disability benefit VA designation uh, got those favors, quid pro quo. I don't know if it's a quid pro quo. It's suspicious quid pro quo in 2020. He got it in 2020. His DV, his disabled veterans designation, and all the benefits that go with it. Um, and that is really, he's not the only one. He's not the only one. And all of that needs to be investigated. And so I think that's what's going on in veteran affairs right now. These things being investigated. The abuse, the criminal network is huge and it's going at lightning speed. Um, and Kyle Eswick, with his stripper dancing, his football, his driving, being in charge of fuel on Fort Bliss, his ownership of Richard's Toyota Camry. He sold Richard the Toyota Camry connected to A&R Chavira. Um, his ownership of a Dodge Charger. You know, wow, when we have over and over again people that say the getaway car was a green Dodge Charger. Um, and where is he? Where is he? You know, um, it's it's all real. It's shattering. It's breaking, and every day is new and new information coming out. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.